Rare Lectures by Neville Goddard. Our first story for tonight is from the 5th chapter of the Gospel of Mark. In this chapter, there are three stories told as though they were separate experiences of the dominant characters. In the first story, we are told that Jesus came upon an insane man, a naked man who lived in the cemetery and hid himself behind the tombs. This man appealed to Jesus not to cast out the devil that bedeviled him. But Jesus said unto him, Come out of the man, thou unclean spirit. Mark 5:8. Thus Jesus cast out the devils that they may now destroy themselves. And we find this man for the first time clothed and in his right mind and seated at the feet of the Master. We will get the psychological sense of this chapter by changing the name Jesus to that of enlightened reason or fourth dimensional thinking. As we progress in this chapter, we are told that Jesus now comes upon the high priest, whose name is Jairus. And Jairus has a child who is dying. She is 12 years old, and he appeals to Jesus to come and heal the child. Jesus consents, and as he starts toward the home of the high priest, a woman in the marketplace touched his garment. And Jesus, immediately knowing in himself that virtue has gone out of him, turned him about in the press and said, Who touched my clothes? Mark 5:30. The woman who was healed of an issue of blood that she had for 12 years confessed that she had touched him. And he said unto her, Daughter, thy faith hath made thee whole. Go in peace. Mark 5:34. As he continues toward the home of the high priest, he is told that the child is dead, and there is no need to go to resurrect her. She is no longer asleep, but is now dead. As soon as Jesus heard the word that was spoken, he said unto the Father, Be not afraid, only believe. Mark 5:36. And when he was come in, he said unto them, Why make ye this ado, and weep? The damsel is not dead, but sleepeth. Mark 5:39. With this, the entire crowd mocked and laughed. But Jesus, closing the doors against the mocking crowd, took with him into the household of Jairus, his disciples, and the father and mother of the dead child. They entered into the room where the damsel was lying, and he took the damsel by the hand, and said unto her, Damsel, I say unto thee, arise. Mark 5:41. From this deep sleep she awoke and arose and walked. And the high priest and all the others were astonished. And he changed them straightly that no man should know it. And he commanded that something should be given her to eat. Mark 5:43. You are this very night, as you are seated here, pictured in this 5th chapter of Mark. A cemetery is for one purpose. It is simply a record of the dead. Are you living in the past? If you are living among the dead, your prejudices, your superstitions, and your false beliefs that you keep alive are the tombstones behind which you hide. If you refuse to let them go, you are just as mad as the madman of the Bible who pleaded with enlightened reason not to cast them out. There is no difference, but enlightened reason is incapable of protecting prejudice and superstitions against the inroad of reason. There is not a man in this world who has a prejudice, regardless of the nature of the prejudice, who can hold it up to the light of reason. Tell me you are against a certain nation, a certain race, a certain ism, a certain anything. I do not care what it is. You cannot expose that belief of yours to the light of reason and have it live. In order that it may be kept alive in your world, you must hide it from reason. You cannot analyze it in the light of reason and have it live. When this fourth dimensional focus comes and shows you a new approach to life and casts out of your own mind all the things that bedevil you, you are then cleansed and clothed in your right mind, and you sit at the foot of understanding, called the feet of the Master. Now clothed and in your right mind, you can resurrect the dead. What died? The child in the story is not a child. The child is your ambition, your desire, the unfulfilled dreams of your heart. This is the child housed within the mind of man. For as I have stated before, the entire drama of the Bible is a psychological one. The Bible has no reference at all to any person who ever existed or any event that ever occurred upon earth. All the stories of the Bible unfold in the minds of the individual man. In this story, Jesus is the awakened intellect of man. When your mind functions outside of the range of your present senses, when your mind is healed of all the former limitations, then you are no longer the insane man, but you are this presence personified as Jesus, the power that can resurrect the longings of the heart of man. You are now the woman with the issue of blood. What is the issue of blood? A running womb is not a productive womb. She held it for 12 years. She was incapable of conceiving. She could not give form to her longing because of the running of the issue of blood. You are told her fate closed it. As the womb closes, it can give form to the seed or idea. As your mind is cleansed of your former concept of self, you assume you are what you want to be, and remaining faithful to this assumption, you give form to your assumption or resurrect your child. You are the woman cleansed of the issue of blood, and you move towards the house of the dead child. The child or state you desired is now your fixed concept of yourself. But now, having assumed that I am what formerly I desired to be, I cannot continue desiring what I am conscious of being. So, I do not discuss it. I talk to no one concerning what I am. It is so obvious to me that I am what I wanted to be, that I walk as though I were. Walking as though I am what formerly I wanted to be, my world of limited focus doesn't see it and thinks I no longer desire it. The child is dead within their world, but I, who know the law, say the child is not dead. The damsel is not dead, she but sleepeth. I now awaken her. I, by my assumption, awaken and make visible in my world what I assume. For assumptions, if sustained, invariably awaken what they affirm. I close the door. What door? The door of my senses. I simply shut out completely all that my senses reveal. I deny the evidence of my sense. I suspend the limited reason of the natural man and walk in the bold assertion that I am what my senses deny. With the door of my senses closed, what do I take into that disciplined state? I take no one into that state, but the parents of the child and my disciples. I close the door against the mocking, laughing crowd. I no longer look for confirmation. I completely deny the evidence of my senses, which mock my assumption, and do not discuss with others whether my assumption is possible or not. Who are the parents? We have discovered that the father-mother of all creation is man's I amness. Man's consciousness is God. I am conscious of this state. I am the father-mother of all my ideas, and my mind remains faithful to this new concept of self. My mind is disciplined. I take into that state the disciples, and I shut out of that state everything that would deny it. Now the child, unaided by a man, is resurrected. The condition which I desired and assumed that I had becomes objectified within my world and bears witness to the power of my assumption. You be the judge. I cannot judge you. You either living now in the dead past, or you are living as the woman whose issue of blood has been stanched. Could you actually answer me if I ask you the question? Do you believe now that you, without the assistance of another, need only assume that you are what you want to be to make that assumption real within your world? Or do you believe that you must first fulfill a certain condition imposed upon you by the past, that you must be of a certain order or a certain something? Although you cannot see your objective with the limited focus of your three-dimensional mind, you are now that which you have assumed you are. Walk in that assumption and remain faithful to it. Time in this dimension of your being beats slowly, and you may not, even after you objectify your assumption, remember there was a time when this present reality was but an attitude of mind. Because of the slowness of the beat of time here, you often fail to see the relationship between your inner nature and the outer world that bears witness to it. You be the judge of the position you now occupy in the fifth chapter of Mark. Are you resurrecting the dead child? Are you still in need of having that womb of your mind closed? Is it still running and therefore cannot be fertile? Are you now the insane man living in the dead past? Only you can be the judge and answer these questions. Thank you so much for being with me today. Happy manifesting and goodbye.